Mute the microphone on that one, okay? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Grant. Where is it? Hold on. Yeah.
Okay. It is 17:33 on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. I call this regular meeting of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We'll have a roll call. Corey Garza Jr. Brian Kufal.
Here.
Dave Garcia.
Here.
Elizabeth Ramos.
Here.
James Lucing.
Here.
Thelma Salinas.
Here.
Stephen Price here. But to show there's a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Government Code, Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We move to the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This meeting will be live video streamed at https://bit.lv ly 3SROLQR. We move to item number 4, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Brian Kufal,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Lucing.
Can
Oh,
I get some discussion?
again?
Can I have some discussion?
Sure.
I don't know if anybody was walking in right before being able to sign up for public participation, but can they still do that?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Maddox, I would be guilty of giving the wrong information to somebody that had a public comment. I told them to be here at 5:30 and this sign-in time is 5:15. And I'm just wondering, asking the board if we can still give that time to that individual who is here.
Yes, sir. There's no issues with allowing a public comment sign up at this time.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Okay. Public participation?
Well, we didn't vote on the adoption of the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Say all those there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, public participation. Did we have any food for public participation?
No, sir, not at this time.
Not at this time. All right, fair enough. Number 6, communication from administration, superintendent update. Ms. Ramirez.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Dr. Bettis asked me to please convey her appreciation for the first annual superintendent's cocoa and conversation. She really appreciated the turnout of not only the community, but especially the board members. and just thought it was a wonderful event. Also, wanted to convey her appreciation for the first annual family movie night. It was a great turnout. I don't know, I believe I saw Mr. Garza there. Not sure if any of you were able to attend. But we had a really great turnout. Students were enjoying it. We had pictures with Santa. We had pictures with our famous Grinch over here. He really took the role seriously. Students had a great time. We were able to take pictures of our families with Santa Claus, and I believe we posted those on Facebook so that they could grab copies of those. So that was great, and parents were asking when we could do it again. And students were asking when we could do it again. So really great event.
Well, I know I went, and I'm super excited that she did that for our KISD community. I think that's something that we've needed for many years, and I hope it's continuation. It gives an opportunity for people to see and be with each other, not in a sports or UIL environment. So that was wonderful.
It was, and also wanted to thank everybody behind the scenes. It took a lot of work to come together, but everybody pitched in. We had a great big screen, as you could see it from the entryway, great sound. So just overall great event. Thank you so much for saying that. Also wanted to remind our community that we do have an early release on Friday, December 17th for winter break. Elementary schools will be from 7:30 to 12, releasing at 12 p.m. Middle schools from 8 to 12:30, releasing at 12:30 p.m. And high school from 8:30 to 1, releasing at 1 p.m. Those are all of the superintendent's updates. Thank you.
The budget recap. Good.
Thank you, Board Vice President, Lieutenant Colonel Price. At the top of the check register, you see our health insurance and our electricity usage. As always, Mentoring Minds is a new program that has been purchased to help the struggling students in grades 3 through 8. You look at also E3 Alliance. There is leadership training. This is out of a grant that funds are provided for Harrell and Gillette so that those schools can increase performance, and the monies for that leadership training are coming out of that grant. The Service Center, you see, has always been a partner with us. They help us in many different issues, as you can see, from consulting to instructional guides and software, and those again are at prices where we would be paying a lot more if we went somewhere else other than the Service Center. Power School annual backup services. Most of the annual services renew in September, October, but this is one where it some of them have a different term year where it runs out at different times. We did move a portable building from Gillette to, I'm sorry, from Memorial.
What was the reasoning for that? I never got a reasoning.
From Memorial to Harrell.
I thought the ratio was supposed to be 15-16 to 1 year. I don't know why we need an extra portable over there. Right?
The reasoning for that was an extra building for having ARDS and pullouts for student testing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a contract with Schneider. That's an annual contract that we renew. We did an analysis where we actually save money. We have a discounted rate for service calls and for parts and services with an annual maintenance contract agreement, so that actually saves us money. At this time, I'll take any other questions that you may have on the check register.
And I'm not sure exactly where on their check register, but I did see the doctor from Porpoise on there again, but I don't see the one we have a contract for. Are we utilizing the guy we have a contract with and not this other guy from Porpoise? Because to be honest with you, I'd just rather use the guy from Porpoise. I believe he's more thorough at his testing abilities.
Dr. Bessanias, you want to take that?
Afternoon, board, I'll answer that question for you. We do currently have 2 contracts. One with Dr. Peraza, who's doing all of our psychologicals and our autism testing. Dr. Alan Fisher is the psychologist in CCISD, and he was one that previously, I believe, Kingsville ISD utilized prior. When I came on board, we restated his contract, and we're currently using him to provide direct counseling. One of his LSSPs is in the city and provides direct counseling to 4 of our students, as well as now providing us counseling evaluation and FBAs, which are functional behavioral assessments.
So that he doesn't have the staff at his office to
No, ma'am,
do
he
all kids.
He also has the staff there also to do all of them. We haven't transitioned fully into Dr. Alan Fisher because Daniel Terraza was already in the midst of starting evaluations and completing evaluations for Kingsville. We are currently evaluating both services by evaluating the actual evaluations that are coming to us.
That was my next
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Have you seen the differences
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
two?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you see what I see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are, and we're visiting with both of them regarding what our expectations are with our testing of our students. You're welcome.
I have a question on the first page,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's just, I believe it's like the 7th from the bottom.
Okay.
HEB.
Okay.
It just didn't have the funding source.
That was an oversight. That is the general fund. Any other questions?
Answering the question, or are you waiting for a question?
I'm waiting for a question.
Okay, let's talk about that one from HEB.
Okay.
$3,074.21 for working lunches, meetings, and refreshments.
So that is all departments, all campuses district-wide. Some of that is for faculty meetings. Some of it is for department meetings.
I think our issue up here is that we know there's employees that work through their lunch, but they're not paid for by KISD. I know that's one of my issues.
Well, my issue is 3,074. How many employees did you say that was? That we did the lunches for? Because if we just take the number of 100 employees, that's $37 a lunch. If it's 200 employees, it's $18.50 a lunch. And I need not remind you that we are 1% above our administrative costs according to the first report. And that's not the only place where that's used as a working lunches, meetings, refreshments. There's several other places in the check register where that's also the same phrase is used. So who knows how many? Going back not too far to distant future, if we got a working lunch, they told us to bring a sack. Bring a sack lunch. That was your working lunch. So I'm wondering, you know, when did meals get put into the equation?
Well, I think the environment of KISD is somewhat one that you have to kind of give those perks to be happy to be here sometimes.
No.
I know sometimes it can get struggle.
You know, we're not giving perks to the kindergarten teachers.
I'm just feeling the employees because I know there's a lot out there that work through a lunch, and my whole premise on this is that everybody should be treated equally. So if top administration of this building is getting a working lunch, I want the teachers to get a working lunch from us too, or none at all.
No, I'll vote for the latter, not at all, because I don't think second grade teachers are getting that.
So who are the working lunches for?
Who are the working lunches for?
Who are they?
I think to clarify, we can't expect teachers to work during their lunch. So if that's occurring, it probably needs to be shared
with myself so that I can follow through with principals. Because we shouldn't, they should have free lunch. I can give you an example of a principal meeting that I might have, and it's a lot on the agenda. So any one of these working lunches is tied to an agenda. So we can provide you an example of those agendas that are tied to these. So I might have my principals along with the leadership team at my principals meeting, and I need an extended time, or maybe I don't want to keep them all day, so I'll choose to keep them through a working lunch. That's one example, but that could occur with any department here, whether it's our special education department working with all diagnosticians, speech therapist, pathologists, et cetera. So if you would like to see examples of agendas, we're more than happy to share those with you.
I think it's more a question of the message that it sends.
Right.
It's the message that it sends, not the fact that it's done or not done. It's just that, well, if it's happening on 3rd Street, therefore lunch is provided. But if it's happening in Harrell Elementary, very sad. Run through the cafeteria line real quick. That's the thing. And you see it several places through here. And you know there's things that need to get fixed in the district, and we can't fix it because we may not have the money right now to fix it. But we sure got money to pay for lunches.
I'm coming from this too. If I want to go have lunch with my child, it's $4 for lunch. We provide food for our students and our parents here in the community. Why is our school lunches too good to feed our administration staff while they're going through a meeting as such? Why does it have to be a $20 plate with Braze?
We do tend to use our food services.
Okay, I didn't want to spend too much time on it because it was $3,000, but it's $3,000 this month, $2,000 next month, $2,000 the month after that. Pretty soon, it's $25,000 over the course of the year.
I think you made a great statement is how many bodies, and it may be the same body over and over, maybe it's the same person over 2 meetings, but what's the total number of meetings or people of each meeting that you're serving, so that we can say it's X number of dollars per person.
We can get with Dr. Bettis and look at that closer for sure, because we do have sign-in sheets for all those agendas as well.
Because you may have it where it's a $5 lunch, it's the same thing that we serve at the cafeteria,
Sure.
but we don't know that.
And I think some of the controls here are HEB, do they run a tab or do you collect receipts? I mean, how do you pay them?
HEB provides, we have first get a purchase order to HEB. And then they provide, whoever picks up the order from HEB has to provide a receipt to accounts payable, and then they pay them.
So
their
what,
check.
any idea what period this covers? Would it be just a month or could it be?
Oh, yeah.
longer?
Usually they run about a monthly period.
But there is a PO order approved by somebody.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
So it's not just people running willy-nilly, hey, I'm gonna go get a bunch of lunches.
No, they have to make that request ahead of time.
Okay.
So that's a lot. for
On
$1,000
on
per
a similar line. Second page, Geraldo's meet with Molly for the vets. It's $2,162. How many veterans did we feed?
30 to 35.
For $2,100? Did they eat like 7 meals a day? This is the kind of thing that catches my eye, that you have 20 vets show up for any event, that's really good. And I only see luncheons, and then the high school does the lunch, and then breakfast with the one elementary or another. Again, another $2,000.
Maybe they're just, estimating who may show up and then they have that food. I mean,
No,
I
that's the
can see
bill,
that
that's what
being-
they pay.
I know, but you get
You
it
have to
ready,
order.
but you have to estimate, you have to prepare that there might be 800 that show up. You
Now,
never
there's
know.
800 show up.
Well, we need to, now we know.
Yeah, I just said, those are the things, so where you start saving 1,000 here, 1,000 there, and pretty soon you got some money.
That is correct.
Last board
Ms.
meeting.
Thomas. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I see the difference in those types of things that I do a work. That is correct, Ms. Thomas, because that's an estimation for them and their guests that they brought that day. And we just never know how many are going to come up. And this is for meetings that occur, we have 3 to 4 hour meetings. And so, we may not necessarily serve them breakfast or lunch, but we do give them refreshments, bottled water or sodas or chips or chips, crackers, that kind of thing, just to, keep them fed during that 3 to 4 hours so it is refreshments as well. So we got rid of board meals.
$2,100 for maybe a handful of that.
Well, it's.
What happens with all the leftover food? Do you guys utilize that another way and take it down to the soup kitchen or something, so they just put it in the fridge, or how does that work?
In my experience, it has been given to employees so that it doesn't get wasted.
Next one. I mentioned this at the last board meeting or 2 board meetings ago when Mr. Escobar was here. I said, where's our status? We're at the end of the year now. Insurance year's over, right? Health, we're done. The year's completed.
December.
Where do we stand? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Are we in the hole? Are we in the black?
We are close to breaking even for this year. We can bring you a more detailed result as soon as December is complete of where we ended up for the year.
Close to breaking even.
Yes.
Who's gonna make up the difference?
No, actually, we're to the good.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone ever look at COVID insurance? At the end of the year, ask at last meeting, where do we stand? Again, I asked, where do we stand?
Yes, Mr. Vice President, I'll field that one if I may.
Say again?
He's answering.
I will field that question if I may. We did look into it. The Affordable Care Act does not allow insurers such as Aetna to add a penalty for non-vaccinations. Employers can, theoretically. There's private employers out there that are adding penalties to their plans, but they manage the majority of those plans. So it's not the insurer, it's the employer. So for KISD to try to do this, we'd be one of the first public employers to try to implement a penalty on the employer side. And I can't recommend that we try this without extensive additional legal research, because we're going to be breaking some new ground.
Be on the front page of CNN on Facebook. Mr.
You
Pitts.
know what? I'd rather be on the front page of CNN and have money in the bank than be broke and have to raise everybody's rates.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're looking at, one hospitalization.
Can you from now on just number these pages so that whenever
Oh,
we
certainly.
make reference to a line item, we can actually say on page 3, 4?
Certainly.
Because this is very hard for us to be flipping and
Okay. And to be honest, the easiest way, since I have ordered them from greatest to least, the easiest way to find something is to tell me the dollar value, and then I can just find exactly where it is in there. But I can work on numbering it as well too.
If you can't do it, I don't mind numbering myself so that you know where it is. Okay.
Dr. Pitts,
Yes, sir.
real quick on the second, I think it's on the second page that we were at. Just explain to me a little bit, I see a student travel. Is
Yes.
for athletics. Can you give me who gets that? What is that student travel?
So student travel usually is money to pay for student meals. So that is given,
So it's meals.
yes, so it is to the coach, and then the coach pays for the student meals at that athletic event. Or after that athletic event.
That makes sense. Also, I noticed there's a lot of administration that uses that claim a lot of mileage and rightfully so, they do use their own vehicles. But I know that the district has vehicles available that were we're paying insurance for at the bus barn, I believe. I've seen, I drove by there the other day.
That is correct.
Could some administration be using those vehicles? Are they able to use those vehicles for whenever they're in town travel or they're gonna be doing some things?
They are available. It depends on the reservation at the time. In Kingsville, since it's such a small town, a lot of times it's costs less to just drive there instead of drive all the way to transportation, pick up a vehicle and then drive back. And then have to go pick up, pick up the vehicle at a different time. And then, of course, those vehicles tend to be larger vehicles as well too, that aren't as, that have higher gas mileage prices.
So in reality, we have a set of cars, a fleet of vehicles that are just there. So we'll go ahead and, for convenience, then we just use my own vehicle. What if there's an accident in my own car and I'm with the district and we work? Is that teacher, is that administrator, are they covered?
They are on the workers' comp if they, I mean, it's covered under workers' comp if it is a work duty and it is reported there. So, again, those vehicles, most of the time are used for field trips, or sometimes when an employee goes to a conference out of town, those are used as well.
Thank you, Dr.
So all these employee travels, is it inner city, inner district, or? Like, is there different amounts, like next to last page?
Okay.
Okay, there's one for Peter Thomas Pitts.
Okay.
$76.
Okay.
Do you get mileage for driving from campus to campus?
So the employee travel is a broad category that covers several things. So it covers hotels. When you stay at a hotel, like I went to an election conference, and that was when I went to the election conference. It covers hotels, registration, and it covers, so we have to pay all of that. Meals as well too, but then of course gas. I wasn't the one that drove, so I didn't get any gas mileage on that. As far as in-town travel, there are professionals get a stipend every year. It's a $500 stipend for in-town travel between campuses, but hourly employees do not. They get paid by the mile.
Okay, and that's fine. My question is, there's $76 for employee travel, and it's for Peter Pitts.
Yes.
So $76, you didn't travel to Austin or to Dallas or to Houston, to San Antonio, because it would have been at least 200 if it was a conference. My question is, are you getting mileage to go from campus to campus? I mean, I could see other people getting mileage if it's a service like, say, diagnosticians, speech therapists that travel from campus to campus. I can see them getting mileage, but as administrators?
No, administrators, we do not get
So what is that mileage?
in-town mileage. What was that charge for? That charge was for meals for the conference, the
It
3-day
says
conference.
employee travel, so that you just put it as
Yeah.
employee travel.
Employee
It's a
travel is
bill.
considered everything that's involved with the travel, like gas, meals,
So
hotel,
you
mileage,
put
everything.
slash meals so that we know. the
Okay.
meals or-
Okay,
You know,
okay, I
it's
can do that.
It's driving.
Got it, got it.
Traveling. But I mean, I get you.
Okay.
But yeah, $76 I can see for meals.
Well, you said, Dr. Pitts, that administrators and contract professional, their mileage is included.
There is a $500 annual stipend for administrators that travel.
Okay, there's one at the bottom here for possibly one of our special education administrators. And it says employee travel for $20. Would that also be like a lunch or a meal or something?
Then a lot of times it's mileage to the service center. Whenever someone drives to Corpus Christi, they get reimbursed for the mileage because
Yeah, but that's not $20 though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I travel all the time, so I know
Yes.
a trip from here to Corpus is not $20.
And
Okay,
is it from their?
that's all I'm asking.
It's a mileage rate, and it's based on from where they work to where they are traveling.
Well, this is my thought. And just from experience, I can see employees, like I said, employees that actually go service children at other campuses, you get mileage,
Yes,
inter-district mileage.
yes.
But I can't see administrators getting mileage for inter-district because that's your job. That's part of your job.
Right, they, administrators don't get mileage for,
So what is that
travel
$500
within district.
stipend that you said?
Oh, that is, travel allowance in district for the year. Oh, I thought you meant per mile. That is something that is taken to the board in the spring as stipends, and that's something that can be addressed. It's something that's approved by the board every year, the
Well,
stipends.
I'm okay with administrators, salary professionals. I'm all for them getting a stipend or whatever it is, it added on to their salary. That's okay. I just don't want them to make sure that that there's transparency in that there is no turning in of mileage tickets, for $20 or $15 when they already allotted some money for it.
No, all of administrative travel that you will see is out of town travel.
So then explain that one for me on the second to last page then.
Third one from the bottom.
I don't know the details of that individual expense, but I can look into it.
That's why I asked you, is if it's a meal, Dr. Pitts, put down there /meal.
Okay,
That's it.
okay.
Because to us, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we're already giving you, there's a double dip in there type
But
of
it's
thing.
third from the bottom of the second to the last one.
I see it. Yes, I see that one. I will look into that and I will
Because
get
if
the
they're
answer.
getting a $500 stipend already, then what is this all about?
Right. It is out of town travel, but I'm not exactly sure what it is, so I will look into that.
Now, my question is, you have mentioned that you use certain rates. Is this a GSI rate?
Yes,
So it is
56 cents per mile. Yes.
56 cents a mile. So
Yes.
going to San Antonio or going to Corpus Christi would be $20. And back would be another $20.
Right, so it can't be exactly be that, right?
But what I'm saying is, I just wanted to make sure what a rate is.
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
yes, that's fine.
But it will be changing in January as I always revise the rates
I
every year.
understand. I just want to make sure we're going by the rate that's posted, and it wasn't just something that.
That is correct, 56 cents per mile.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, got the questions out?
Oh, I can go all night on this check register, you have no idea. I don't know why we condition water that we already pay city water to condition, so, let's stop.
All right, 7A, the common consent board agrees to consider as one action item the following. Approval waiver of tuition for transfer students for 2021-2022.
Move it's presented, it's, the consent agenda is approved as presented.
A second. Okay. All those in favor?
Can I
Oh,
discuss?
discussion?
Yeah.
No, you can't have discussion on consent.
Oh, discussion? Yeah.
No? Okay.
That's what it is. Okay. You said they were approved, right?
Yes, sir.
All in approval, vote yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Roll call vote?
No,
Okay.
but I'm, no,
Okay. But you're no?
I'm a no.
You're no. Okay. Motion carries 5-1. Discussion and possible action regarding appointment of the acting secretary of the board of trustees for election purposes for the May 7th, 2022 election, pages 17 through 19. Dr. Pitts.
I guess I get confused by the wording, so we're going on to B?
We're on
Okay,
to now.
well then change my no vote to a yes vote,
Okay,
if you don't mind,
yes.
that we're doing them all together. That's what's happening.
It's usually a list and then there's only one.
I know, okay, that's.
Yeah, I do the list, just one kid.
After consulting with legal, our board election must take place on May the 7th for places 1, 2, and 3 where those terms are expiring in May. The election will be required to be held on May the 7th. We're going to talk about some of the deadlines that you see there right now. What we need to do today is the board does need to appoint an acting secretary to the board for election purposes. If you look at those deadlines, the first deadline that's coming up is we need to post the window of which candidates can file for the May 7th election. So we will be posting that tomorrow after bringing that to the board. We have to post it by May the 20th, and we'll post it on our website. We'll post it on the front door there. So the window of which candidates can file for places 1, 2, or 3 is January the 19th to February the 18th. Always has to be 30 days. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. We need to post that 30 days before the start of the filing period, and we will post that tomorrow. You also see that February 18th is the last day to order an election. We plan to bring the election order in January to the January 18th board meeting. We should have more specific details. The county is also having an election at the same time, a constitutional election. That is going to help us quite a bit because we will be able to share election judges, machines. It's going to be a significant cost to the district, and we will also benefit great of the county who usually has 2 or 3 elections every year. So that will be being brought to the board in January. Then if you notice, the next deadline is Thursday, Tuesday, February the 22nd. They actually have 4 additional days to file as a candidate, as a write-in candidate, past the time where they can file in for actually being on the ballot. Then the 7th, last day for a voter to register to vote in the election. The 26th of April, last day to apply for a ballot by mail. And then you see the voting dates. The early voting dates will be April the 25th through May the 3rd. Still working with the county. Probably will be 8 to 5 or during those dates, but again, working with the county since it will be at the early voting annex. And then May the 7th will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I will take any questions that you currently have on the upcoming board election.
I have a question. When will we be moving our election to the fall? I keep bringing this up and I'm told that it's too early to discuss it, but apparently now that it is, because we're setting a date.
We have looked into that with Secretary of State and legal, and there is no legal provision for which we can move our election to the fall. We were allowed to in 2020 because of COVID. We were given an exemption and entities were permitted to do that, but there is no legal avenue for us to move it to November this year.
I think we need to follow forward with this then, because there is also a provision that states that we cannot hold an election alone, and we can't assume that every 2 years that the county is going to hold a referendum. We have to hold it with another entity, and we know that the city has moved the county into the fall. So somewhere along here, there has to be a way, or they have to come up with a mechanism, and I think we need to move to push that.
We have consulted with Secretary of State on the very same issue, And they said in that case, the precedence is that we still have to hold our election on the date in May, and that if there is no other entity to hold it with on that date, then that's still when we have to hold our election, and we have documentation from Secretary of State as such. Did you want to chime in at all on that, Mr. Maddox?
Sure, just to say that
We can't hear you, Mr. Maddox.
well, I'm muted. The education code does contemplate the election code in that situation, and it says there might be a need to adjust term lengths for board members at the school to better match our joint election requirements. And the Secretary of State attorneys were very clear when they stated if it does come to a rock and a hard place, that it was their opinion that maintaining our current May election was the prevailing law, that if we're going to have to choose between two, the joint election provision or the movement provision, to not move and to address the joint elections.
The county has set elections. They elect 2 or 3 commissioners every 2 years. They elect a judge every 4 years.
4 years.
JPs,
Wait, but
2 or 3.
you're mixing apples and oranges, because it's the municipality within the school district that determines the school board, and the municipality within the school district would be the city of Kingsville. When you get into county elections, you're dealing with state elections, and you're dealing with primaries and runoffs and all of that. And so it would only be the November election. We were basically placed this year with a choice between violating one of 2 laws until the county came up with their constitutional amendment election. So what Mr. Maddox is saying is that if, see, I hadn't vetted this out yet with the city. I thought the city was going to have 4-year terms, but staggered terms, and apparently not. And if they're going to have 4-year dedicated terms where all 4 of them are up for election every 4 years, then what Mr. Maddox is saying is this board may have to do the same, where all 7 places become up every 4 years.
Because I know the county, it's staggered, like with their 4-year terms, but like, for their staggered
And
terms.
I would think, I would, there's benefit in that, there's huge benefit. And I would think that the city would consider doing that. It's tough when we've got a whole city commission that.
The city has moved their election to November. So my question is, and what I've just been told.
Their election for what?
They don't have an election.
They don't have elections in May, they have elections in November.
That's
Runoffs.
that-
Yes, they've always had them. That's when they've always been. They've had their runoffs.
No,
The
they
city
have them
has
anywhere.
always had elections with the school boards in
Right,
May.
the city moved theirs with the county. So that we.
Permanently or just for COVID?
Permanently.
Okay, well, that's news to
That
me.
is news to me as well. What I heard is that the city is going to elections every 4 years, and not every 2, and that they're going to have their next election in May of 2024 will be their next
That's
election.
what I was told also.
Okay, so that's big change. Okay. That makes a difference.
But I move that we accept the recommendation that Peter Pitts be the election acting secretary to the board for election purposes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? I'll then move for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented by Mr. Kufal, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried 6-0. Discussion of possible action regarding extension of COVID-19 leave during epidemic and resolution, pages 20 to 21, Dr. Fitz.
Thank you. Our current resolution expires on January the 11th, which would place it expiring before our next board meeting on January the 18th. So we brought this to the board for possible action. We have not seen abuse with the way that this current resolution has been stated, because if an employee is going to request leave, they have to bring proof of a positive test of themselves or of a member of their immediate household. So because of Omicron and not knowing what the future holds and the holidays coming up, we are recommending that we extend the resolution until the end of March 31st. I'll take any questions that you might have.
What's the cost to the district? I mean, out of pocket, truly out of our pocket cost.
I don't have an answer currently. I
Is
can.
there a cost?
Well, the cost is that for a couple of things. One, if a teacher is absent and a substitute is required, we're talking the cost of the substitute anywhere from $70 to $100 a day. A lot of employees though don't require substitutes. There isn't a cost to that other than the amount of work lost during that time. And of course, then employees aren't required to use their own leave for that time.
We've been doing this now, it would be a third iteration?
Well, we had iterations last year, and the iterations last year were quite a bit different than this year, because this one requires a positive test, where the ones before, when we were just discovering about COVID, were basically if you came in contact with anyone that had COVID. So this year, I believe, was the third iteration. We had, I think, September the 30th, and then we had January the 11th, and now this would be the third iteration.
The requirement of a positive test, is that under our current
Resolution?
that we're under right now?
Yes, we've had that resolution for this whole year.
And that's the positive test, okay, and that's monitored by the HR department
That is correct.
with fidelity.
We have an extended period of time of data. We have frequent flyers?
They can't, I will defer maybe to HR, but I would think under the current resolution that the only way that that would be possible would be if they got a test, and then a couple of weeks later, someone in their immediate household got a test, and then a couple of weeks later, somebody else in their household got a positive test. So I would think that that is very rare and few and far between. Can you?
Somebody took it during the first iteration, then during the second iteration, it came up again. And now the third iteration, I mean, I'm saying over a period of time, is it possible we've had people that have ridden the sick book?
Speaking with HR, it hasn't been abused in its current iteration.
And I think that that's legally where that is.
Okay.
Well, I think if we follow the reporting that Dr. Bettis has done, we've seen the numbers very, very, very low, Mr. Bettis.
The employees, the last maybe couple of months, we've had very, very few that have been on COVID leave.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than, of course, the very beginning.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think we have one person right now, a teacher. And based on,
Well, how many have you had in the last few months?
I'm sorry,
How many have you had in the last few months?
this is just a guesstimation. I would say maybe 4.
Okay, so the information we're getting in our emails is inaccurate.
All I know is what I read in my email.
Well, I don't know where it could be inaccurate, Ms. Ramos. But there are numbers. They are, the reporting that Dr. Pettis is giving is not all zeros.
No, they haven't
No,
been
they're
on
like
Zoom.
one student. There are no reports of as many as you say employees being took in the last couple months. I've got it on my computer, an Excel file ready to go. If you'd like to see it, I'll forward it to you later.
Dr. Pitts, but it's not an abuse that we're seeing, I mean, in that, so.
No, I mean, Mr. Pettis said four employees maybe have used it in the last couple of months. That doesn't seem like it. Again, last year it was left and right, but again, the resolution that we adopted was quite a bit different because it had to just be being in contact with someone who had a positive case, and there were so many more cases at that time as well too. So we're not losing nearly as many work hours. This is just for the employee that does get it. They would not have to use their own leave through March 31st.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I mean, you do it.
I'm gonna make the motion that we go ahead and extend that COVID coverage till January 11th. We're almost there anyway, so that was the motion.
No, it's going to March. You have it
It's
worded
going
out
through
right here.
March. March 31st, David.
Get everything still January. Okay,
Expires in January, so they're extending it. to-
discussion? Oh, we get a second on that?
Well, I think it has to be stated correctly first, right?
So then the extension, Dr. Pitts, is gonna be till March 31st, is that correct?
March 31st of 2022, that is correct, Mr. Garcia.
Well, that comes us and pulls us out of the winter months type thing, so I'll change that motion to, that we do extend it to March 31st, give a little bit more protection for our staff.
Okay, second? Anyone?
I second.
Discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor of extending COVID-19 leave during epidemic resolution? Say aye. Anyone want a roll call? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No?
And I'll be happy to read the resolution in Colonel Price.
Okay, so the vote's 4 with 2 dissenting, myself and Mr. Kupal. Okay. All right, please, somebody read it.
All right, a resolution of the board regarding extension of COVID-19 leave during epidemic. Whereas the board is authorized by Texas Education Code Section 45.105 to expend funds of Kingsville Independent School District for purposes necessary in the conduct of the public schools as determined by the board. Whereas the board acknowledges that during an epidemic, district employees may be instructed not to report for work after on-site exposure. Whereas the board finds that a need exists to address additional leave in the circumstances of an epidemic. Whereas the board concludes that providing additional paid leave to all regular employees, contractual and non-contractual, salaried and non-salaried, who are sick or in isolation as a result of an epidemic, serves the public purposes of protecting students and staff and maintaining morale and reducing turnover. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Kingsville Independent School District authorizes providing additional paid leave for all regular employees, contractual and non-contractual, salaried and non-salaried, who are sick as a result of an epidemic. Employee must provide a COVID positive test result for themselves or medical certification of a COVID positive test result for a dependent in their household as described in our IRS rules and guidelines. The authority granted by this resolution allows paid leave beginning August 25th, 2021 until January the 11th, 2022. This extended leave is temporary to address the current emergency situation and expires March the 31st, 2022. Adopted this 14th day of December 2021 by the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Discussion of possible action regarding first reading of localized policy update 118, page 27 through 77, Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Kreitz, Board Trustees. I think we need to do the second reading first.
Is that second reading?
We need a second read for EIC local.
Yeah, second reading. This is the academic achievement class ranking. Where we, second one with the,
That's correct. That's the first one we need to do.
yeah,
You want to cover that one first?
yeah, cover that.
All right. I'm here to do a second reading of board policy EIC local. Back in November, I brought you the first reading. There were some recommendations made after you did the first readings. Back in November, the board recommended that we add a comma after I'll read the changes to the policy. Due to teacher shortage, comma, for the 2021-22 school year, comma, the district shall include certain distance learning courses, i.e. ingenuity in the calculation of class rank. That was added on two different parts of the EIC local. In addition, one of the things that we needed to make a change to, it was brought to our attention in one of our DIC meetings that in the local graduation honors, we had in there that we would do calculations for class rank for graduation purposes. We will do it after the 6 weeks. We are no longer doing 6 weeks, we are doing 9-week periods. So we are changing that to the third 9-week grading period.
You have a motion to accept?
Move that we approve as presented.
I'll second.
We'll call vote on that. Garcia,
Yes.
Thomas,
No.
Wilson,
Yes.
Elmore,
Yes.
Kufal,
Yes.
I vote no. Carries 4-2. Discussion and possible action regarding first reading of the localized policy update 118, pages 27 through 77. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Kreitz. I'm here to present the updates to 118, which include recommended local policy revisions based on almost exclusively on legislation from the 87th regular legislative session. There are 12 different policies that are being either revised or added to board policy or be recommended for addition to board policy. And I will review those at this time. So these are the 12 policies that are being considered for replacement or addition. Now I'll go over them one at a time. CFD local, the recommended revisions to this policy are to align with the recently adopted amendments to the financial accountability system resources guide. Substantive changes include clarification that student activity funds are those funds raised and collected by student clubs and organizations. Approval to spend those funds rests solely with the student organization or club with disbursement management and approvals by the principal and sponsor. I'm going to read through all the different policies. At the end, I'll answer any questions you have with regards to the policy. Second policy, CQB local, pertains to HB 1118 and SB 1267. Revision addressing board delegation to the superintendent regarding cyber security training and has been revised to reflect the elimination of the annual training requirements, except for the cybersecurity coordinator, and give the superintendent the authority to impose consequences for failure to complete required trainings. Recommended provisions or revisions regarding reports of breach involved student information are based Resignation,
Superintendent.
correct. The designee, which is the superintendent.
Then it says or us. So do we get to pick?
You get to pick
We still
somebody.
get to pick whether it goes into her or us or not. That's what I'm.
You can pick a designee other than the superintendent.
When you come to us, it goes to her, goes to the superintendent, right?
Current board policy, the board has to approve any resignation of an administrator. But this proposed policy is stating that the superintendent can accept, or the designee that the board assigns could accept those resignations of an
I can
administrator.
recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can recall an awful lot of resignations that came to the board pretty much as being complete. I've accepted the resignation. Am I correct?
I don't think administrators.
What?
This is administrators, correct?
Administrators,
Yeah, we have a couple of them.
a bunch of them.
Yes, we had a
Coordinator, we had
principal.
Is it director?
Two of them, I mean, yeah, a lot.
I mean, I think that's, well, first of all, this is, Tasby wrote this local policy, right?
Correct,
Good. This isn't Tasby's policy, this is our policy.
correct.
So
So
why
this
is
is a
Tasby
T-
writing it for?
You said legislation, I'm assuming this is coming down from law from the TEA, the minimum requirements to be put in our local district policy.
There are recommendations of what should be added to it.
From TASB, not from TEA, not from state law, correct?
Well, some of these
Not
changes,
from us.
no, some of these changes according to the 87 legislature were, the policy was then or revised based off that current legislature.
So, Mr. Vice President, if I may, so TASB takes the legal policies, and those are altered by the legislator, and we do have to adopt the legal policies. The local policies are our implementation of legal, and to a large extent, they are optional. They're tweakable, I should say, by the board. So this is how TASB believes we should best implement the new legal policies.
Yeah, but if we request these policies to put on an agenda, I mean, every 4, 5, 6 months, we're gonna be told, oh, wait, because we have an advisor telling us that something different's going to happen. We can't create our own policy here for the uniqueness of KISD because we have TASB giving us this every 4 to 6 months.
Comes down.
So-
generally once every 2 years.
Well, we've had this 2 times already.
Well, this is also stating, and I'm reading here, this is stating that I believe that it only happens during the period that they're allowed to resign. If they resign outside that time, this doesn't pertain to it.
I don't understand
Uh,
that at all. Because what would be an acceptable time?
It says submitted after the last day of school year and before the penalty-free resignation date. Page 56. It's in the third paragraph in black.
Oh, it's within the.
Okay, but-
resignation time.
All right. Our policy has not required contracted employees come before the board. It's required the administrators come before the board. And that's dealing with contracted. The administrators don't have that same time constraint.
And board, this becomes important at the end of the year because a resignation that is not accepted is revocable by the employee until accepted. So there are situations at the end of the year where an employee resigns and then changes their mind, and sometimes it's not in the best interest of the district for that employee to change their mind, just theoretically. So this allows your administration to accept that and create finality on those resignations.
When did TASB pass this information off to you? When have you guys had your email in your hands?
It was somewhere in November where I got this.
All right, this is what I have an issue with, is that, not you at all, but I'm just this concerns us on a local basis, on a personal basis. And I've gone through at home, fine tooth comb lines and put my highlighter and my sticky pads next to stuff. I can literally spend a whole day on one page just trying to dissect the information. And this was given to us on Friday. Which if you have, you can really take the time to get to understand exactly what it may be saying. I'm no lawyer, but I can armchair lawyer it as best I can at home. I personally don't feel comfortable with this.
With what?
I want to abide by state law. I want to abide by federal law. I want to abide by our local laws here to don't speed down the road. But when it pertains to the uniqueness of KISD and how things have been altered, I really want to take a look at this as a board and with some of the community members, depending on what the agenda is for, to understand where everybody's coming from or what would be the right and the wrong thing to do in improving something like this. But at the minimal standards of state and local law.
I'm confused as to what's offensive about what's being presented. That's what I don't understand.
No, I don't think it's offensive. I mean, this is fine for a lot of school boards. I just don't know if this is a lot. This is a whole, there's more than just one or two. And I think it would be in our best interest to really fine tune comment, see what really, is this what we really need and want? And is this something that TASB is trying to tell us that we should do on a legal basis to protect ourselves and others?
Well, no, because, well, it could be.
Yes.
But, you know, the legal portion of it, we don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice, and I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering, is there other stuff in here? Because it's not coming straight from TEA. It's coming from KISD. So I don't know who is sitting in the room saying, well, I'm gonna put my fingerprint on this, and this is the way it should be. That might not be for us.
Well, I would then like to make a motion that we suspend and table this item, and that our first reading be considered in the January meeting. And that will give everyone plenty of time to pour over this and have any kind of discussions that we may have. And there may be certain policies that are boilerplate that we're all comfortable with, and there may be others that we want to pull out and have some further discussions on.
I think you'd be
willing to amend that to the fact that we have a board workshop that's scheduled one a month.
I don't think this even needs a board. I think if we do our own homework and the jobs that we told the community that we would do at home and fine tune comment, put, you know, this concerns me. It actually, it's not even involve the superintendent in this. I don't think she should have a say in how this goes. I think we should talk to Maddox and say, is this the legal minimum requirement?
All the more reason.
And what if we did this because it seems like KISD, this is something that's good or bad? And have conversations with Maddox about this, because I want to make sure that we're doing everything within our legal limits.
I think all the more reason for a board workshop because we're gonna have a debate amongst ourselves. I like this, I don't like that. Why do you want? Right. That's better done as a workshop so that when we actually sit down to a meeting, we have a pretty good idea as to where we stand as a group. And then it goes through.
Well, if we definitely utilize Maddox to get our questions in there before our workshop and then say, hey, this is what he said, and I have a concern on this, how do you guys feel? Because I don't want to go in there completely naked, not knowing anything that we're talking
No, and I think that the best way to handle this would be for everyone to spend their Christmas vacation. But no, just spend some time with this. And I think that there's a large majority of these that are no-brainers.
about.
And so I think that what would be the most efficient way to handle this is if you have questions, email them to Maddox. And that way Maddox can tell us, I've had policy A, B, and C that I've had some questions about, G, E, D, and E, you know, no questions about it, so we can kind of streamline those and then pull those specific problems or policies that we'd like to have some discussions about and maybe have.
That's why I think doing it during a workshop is much better because
But
You got an issue with two items.
but what I don't want to happen is Mr. Bluesy calls Maddox and they work something out, and then the rest of us are in the dark about, what went on. I hate to throw you on the bus, Mr. Attorney, but I think you're gonna have to be kind of the coordinator of this.
Well, I also think it's important that we address these as individual policies as opposed to saying, accept them as a blanket.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, there's a lot of them we can't quickly approve.
No, and I think that's the whole purpose of that. It's very difficult. They do it statewide. They send out, policy revisions on 20 policies. And I'm not in favor of rubber stamping it when we've had just a few days and there's some significant issues here that need to be discussed. And so, again, I'd like to reiterate that I'd like to table this and bring it back at the January meeting.
You want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll second that.
Oh, there's a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion to. Discussion?
Yes. Dr. Sandoval, you've kind of coordinated all this. You don't get the sense that there's an impending immediacy for us to approve this tonight, do you? Okay.
Just keep in mind that we won't be able to do the final passing until February.
Right.
If we push it up. We could still do the first reading, approve the first reading, have your workshop, answer your questions, make a revision of the second reading if you want, and still pass it in January meeting.
And I think it's our policy that requires the two readings. There is the ability to suspend the two readings if there are some strictly,
Correct.
managerial type things that we may consider doing that.
So we tabling this pending the workshop or in lieu of the workshop?
I don't think we can determine the extent of the workshop needs until we've coordinated with Maddox as to which one specifically.
We're gonna table it, send our questions or concerns or issues to Maddox. And revisit this in January, right?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Any more discussion?
That's it. I don't think there's discussion on table motions.
Okay. Motion's tabled then, or the action's tabled. Item number 8, board went into closed session in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551071 and 551074 to deliberate, consider the following. Consider and deliberate with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. No action will be taken until we turn to open session. We are in a closed session at 18:48.
6:48.
We're live? Okay, everybody? Now return to open session, take necessary action on matters which the board may discuss in open session upon which any action may be taken. We're returning to open session at 19:24. Need no further action. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
You all opposed? All for?
Aye.
Returning to regular meeting at 19:25.